I remember the first time I saw him again, standing there under the neon glow of a Brooklyn diner, rain dripping from my coat, hair plastered to my cheeks. My heart lurched in a way I hadn't felt in years. His name is Ryan, and just the sight of him made the past rise up like a tide I couldn't hold back. I hadn't planned to see him. Not tonight, not ever again, I told myself. But fate has this cruel sense of timing, the kind that smirks while you're caught off guard. He looked the same. Well, older, sure, a little more worn, but it was him. Those hazel eyes that always saw right through me. The crooked grin I had once memorized. "Emma," he said softly, like my name was a secret he'd been keeping safe all this time. "Ryan?" I breathed, and it felt like stepping into a memory I didn't know I was ready to relive. We ended up in the diner, 2 mugs of coffee steaming between us. I watched him sip slowly, eyes darting away whenever they met mine. The years were stacked between us like bricks, heavy and awkward. I wanted to speak, to ask about everything and nothing at once, but fear and old pain wrapped around my throat. I had loved him once, and that love had burned me. Could I survive the flames again? We talked about trivial things at first. Work, the city, our favorite coffee spots. But under the small talk, I could feel the old current pulsing, electric and undeniable. When I mentioned my engagement that didn't last, I felt him flinch, and I realized I'd hurt just as much as he had. That word, love lost, had clung to us both like fog on the Hudson River, and tonight it was thinning, just a little. After the diner, we walked along the rain-slick streets. I could feel him close, the warmth radiating through the thin gap between us. Every step reminded me of late-night walks we'd taken in college, jackets pulled tight, hearts beating too fast. The world felt blurred, wet and beautiful, and for the first time in years, I felt hope threading itself through the ache in my chest. Later that night, when I reached my apartment, I lingered in the doorway longer than I should have, thinking about his laugh, the weight in his eyes, the way he made me feel seen. And though the world outside my window was cold and indifferent, a small part of me whispered that maybe, just maybe, we could rewrite our story. Over the next week, we met again. This time, Central Park, leaves crunching underfoot, air crisp with autumn. I noticed how different he seemed, calmer somehow, but the fire in his eyes was still there, and it made my chest ache. We spoke about everything we hadn't dared to before, the fights, the silence, the reasons we had walked away. Each admission was a brick removed from the wall we'd built between us. One evening, sitting by the East River, he asked why I hadn't given up on him, and I told him the truth. Because I never stopped, not for a second. His hand found mine then, and I let it. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I stopped being afraid. The storm inside me, the grief, the fear, the longing began to come. It wasn't immediate. The next days were filled with tentative steps, stolen glances, hesitant laughter. We were learning each other again, navigating around old scars while creating new memories. And each night, as I fell asleep thinking of him, I realized that the heart, no matter how shattered, can find its way home. But the peace was fragile. A misunderstanding, small and stupid, spiraled into a fight. Words were said that cut deeper than they should have. I stormed out, letting the cold Brooklyn air match the chill in my chest. 2 days passed without a call, without a text, and every corner of my apartment seemed to echo with emptiness. I wondered if this second chance was slipping away before it even had a chance to bloom. Finally, he called. And when I heard his voice, breaking and quiet, my defenses cracked. he said the words that made the weight lift from my chest. I don't want to lose this again. I love you, Emma. I always have, and I always will. Tears blurred my vision as I whispered back, I love you too, Ryan. I've been so scared, but I can't deny it anymore. That night, on the pier where we first touched after the diner, we held each other, and in that embrace, I realized something. Storms might rage, and winds might howl, but love, real love, finds a way through the chaos. Winter came, biting and white, but somehow it didn't matter. We had each other, fragile but alive. Every moment felt deliberate, precious, because we had both known what it was like to lose something irreplaceable. We walked through snow-covered streets, hand in hand, the world around us hushed and sparkling. Every laugh, every glance, every brush of his hand against mine felt like reclaiming a piece of the life I thought I'd lost. The small joys became our refuge. Dinners at diners with neon signs flickering outside, late-night drives through Queens, talking about dreams, fears, and the kind of nonsense only we found funny. I learned to trust again, and he learned to let me in fully. It was exhausting at times, painful at others, but it was real. Then came the day that tested everything. Ryan got a job offer in Chicago, a dream role he couldn't refuse. And just like that, I felt that old familiar ache, the one I thought we'd left behind. The idea of separation was unbearable. Memories of past heartbreak clawed at me, threatening to undo all the healing we'd done. But we faced it differently this time. We promised to fight, to stay connected through calls, texts, visits. When he hugged me at the airport, I clung to him, as if letting go would erase the months of love we'd rebuilt. I'll come back, he whispered. And I believed him, because this time, our love wasn't naive. It was forged in fire and rain. The next months were a new kind of storm. We navigated distance like we had navigated heartbreak, with patience, trust, and relentless hope. Every late-night phone call, every video chat, every handwritten letter became a lifeline. I learned that love isn't about proximity. It's about persistence, about showing up, even when the miles stretch long and the nights are lonely. One night, I found myself walking along the pier alone, staring at the water, thinking about how much I'd changed. I realized that the storm inside me hadn't gone away. It had become something different. It had taught me resilience, the value of vulnerability, and the courage to love without guarantees. Then came the moment that made everything real. Ryan returned unexpectedly, standing there in the glow of the pierced lamps wet from the snow, eyes searching for mine. I ran to him, and we collided in an embrace so tight it felt like we were holding the world together between us. I'm home, he whispered. We walked back into the city together, snow crunching under our boots, the skyline glittering above. We talked about everything we'd learned, everything we still feared, and everything we hoped to build. And for the first time, I realized the truth. Love isn't the absence of storms. It's learning to dance in the rain, to weather the winds together, and to come out stronger on the other side. Months turned into seasons, and we grew into a rhythm neither of us could have imagined when we first met again. We celebrated little victories, mourned losses together, and laughed more than I thought possible. Every touch, every glance, every smile was infused with the memory of pain, the sweetness of survival, and the joy of being found again. One evening, sitting in our tiny Brooklyn apartment, city lights spilling across the floor, I realized something profound. The girl who had once been broken, afraid, and hesitant had grown into someone who could love fully, fiercely, without reservation, and the man beside me, the one I had feared losing forever, had become my anchor, my home. Ryan reached across the table, took my hand, and whispered, "We survived the storm, Emma, and now we get to live in the sunlight." I smiled, tears blurring the edges of the moment, and nodded. "We did," I said softly. "We really did." And in that quiet apartment, with snow drifting outside and the hum of the city below, I realized something I had never truly understood before. Love isn't always easy. It isn't always safe. But when it's real, when it's fought for, when it's nurtured through every storm, it becomes everything you ever dreamed of, and more. I took a deep breath, feeling his warmth, hearing his heartbeat, and for the first time in a lifetime, I knew that we were exactly where we were meant to be. Two hearts, battered but unbroken, had finally learned to love again.